Here we go, it's time for another preview on Full Time Devils today. Of course, we are previewing the Spurs game. Joined today by Stephen Elson, Doc Joshi, and Statman Dave. And
I'm here as well.
This dude, Adam McCullough. We've got to start by talking about this supposed plane banner. Whether this is even happening or not, I don't know. But
I don't
there
know,
are rumours.
It wouldn't surprise me if like a journalist had paid for it or something.
Do you reckon?
I don't know, am I being...
Alex Jones?
Being like, have I got my tinfoil hat on?
Rainforce Plus.
Because when the Moyes one happened, we heard a lot about it before it was actually ordered. We heard people like tweeting about it, and this one's just popped up in a news article about apparently it's on, but...
If you've not heard about this, by the way, the banner that is apparently supposed to be flying over a game coming up. What is all with all these playing banners, by the way? It's like every year this keeps happening. It's like fucking wacky races. Apparently it's going to say on it, Ed out, L-U-H-G. Halson, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to put some money together and I'm going to fly a plain banner that says plain banners are shit. Do you know what I don't like about it? And I didn't like it about those idiots at United Real that decided to do a Ronaldo come home one. That was remember that?
When we all donated £1.
The Moyes one, who's we, Gaz? The Moyes one didn't get rid of Moyes. It was Champions League qualification or failure of that got rid of Moyes. The United Real one, what I don't like about it is it sort of pretends to speak on behalf of United fans. And you couldn't get United fans to agree what colour our shirt is, I don't think, collectively. So having something come out like this over a stadium sort of tries to take the authority that this is what United fans want. You could speak to 10 United fans and get 10 different opinions on it. Now, I don't think you'll get 10 different opinions on Ed Woodward, to be brutally honest with you. But it's just an absolute waste of money because he might as well be called Ed Glazer because he financed a deal for the Glazers to take over the club and they absolutely love the guy. There's no chance he's going. You might as well have donated it to charity or some of the homeless charities or something in Manchester because that actually might have done some good. This is a waste of time.
Joshi, thoughts?
Yeah, man, it is a complete waste of time. I'm not really into it. I mean, I actually seen that it's just rumours, but it's become a story. I'm not sure how that's happened. A lot of people saying it's nonsense and not going to happen. But even if it does, I'm kind of with Housen on that one. It's not going to do anything. I don't think even Woodward would be, someone said, he'll be squirming in his seat. He won't be. This guy is set. He's making money. He's bringing in cash. And we're going to talk about it later, but the valuation of the club is going up. Why would they even think about removing him from his position from a business sense? And that's what the Glazers look at United as. They're not there as like United fans and doing it as some sort of charitable venture. They're there to make money out of the club, whether we like it or not. And Ed Woodward is making money. He ain't going anywhere. The most that I can see happening is someone coming in to kind of take some burden from the football side of things. And I'd be for that. But Ed Woodward is staying. As long as the club is making money and he's making money for the Glazers, he'll stay.
Last thing on this playing banner, it's just going to have so much less resonance that it happens like at this time. You know, when things aren't going well on the pitch. If it happened like when things were going well, people are like, right, they genuinely dislike the owners. Now it just comes across as a bunch of mad asses not used to not having their own way.
That people jump on the Love United Hate Glazer thing after a bad transfer window. Like I find that really a little bit weird. Like we should have been on this. You should be on this every single day, regardless of the result.
Ticket prices.
But for me though, like looking at it, first of all, I agree with what Josh is saying. Ed Woodward's job's safe. Like Steve said, you may as well call him Ed Glazer. Like he's going nowhere. He makes too much money for the club. They're never ever going to get rid of him. So having said that, I think this playing banner is pointless in the sense that it's not going to cause any reaction or any knock-on effect. But it's kind of like, remember when everyone protested against Trump and all that, and everyone was like, what's he going to do? It's not going to do anything. It's like, sometimes people just want to have their voices heard, want to have their opinions heard. And I think Ed Woodward is someone who's got a massive ego, thinks he's the dog bollocks and everything like that. And maybe this will just peg him back a little bit. I remember at the time when the Moyes one come out, and I was, like me personally, I would never pay for a banner to get flown over a stadium.
You know why that is? It's because you've got a life.
It's because I'm a bit gudgy as well, so like, I want to spend my...
Adam, are you going to help donate to my banner that says plain banners are shit?
No, but hang on, I might do. But the point I was trying to get to is that even though I disagree with that, and I wouldn't do that myself, like, if we were to bring a banner to the stadium, like, you're not getting in with that banner.
No.
So to get your voice heard, these are the kind of things people have to do. And like, I kind of learned that last time around with the Moyes thing, that personally, it might not be my opinion, but some people can't just get their opinion out there because they're not allowed to. You go into the stadium with a banner, you have to make sure it's got 2 plastic poles on it and it's all the language is right and all that. But you can't bring something in that says anti-Glazers or anti. You're not allowed to do that. So the only way they can make their voices heard is like going on full-time devils and moaning or putting up that's the only way you can. So whilst I don't agree with it and I don't agree with the timing of it and I wouldn't do it myself personally, I can understand getting so frustrated that the only way, you're just going to get your voice out there as the only way you can.
That's a very good point, though, about bringing in a Glazer out banner into the stadium. You wouldn't be allowed it. That's like crazy when you actually think about it. People should be allowed to have a free speech and say what they feel. Otherwise,
a lot of the regulation about the banners came in after is it 2010, 2011 when they got the enormous ones hanging off the bottom of the Stretford end.
Yeah.
That was when a lot of the regulation came in about it. You'll never, and obviously the increased security that we've had since the bomb scares and stuff like that means that everyone gets a pat down now. You couldn't even wrap it round you and get it in because you're going to get patted down. There's just no way to get this sort of stuff in.
Right, let's stop talking about all that stuff anyway. We're probably boring people. Let's talk about things that are happening on the pitch, because that's really exciting. Captain Pogba specifically. He's captain, of course, the last 2 games. Obviously, the last one against Brighton, a little bit more difficult from the first. He came out after and said that some of the players didn't quite have the right attitude, which was confusing and slightly worrying for me. Statman Dave, what do you make of Pogba's comments after that Brighton game?
I think it's interesting. I think he evaluated his own performance and he didn't think it was good enough, and it wasn't. It was too slow on the ball. He kept on trying to take people on in deep areas, which is you don't want to do in that sort of situation. You need to play quickly through your midfield, through your defence, and get United into the final third. Like you look at the stats of those first 2 games, United have not created enough chances. They've had not enough shots on goal. The possession in the final third is the lowest in the Premier League. So it's one of these things where United need to be a bit quicker, and I think Pogba against Spurs is the perfect guy to not only transition United quickly and play around the Spurs press, which is what United need to do, but also when he gets into the final third looking for those crosses over the top. Spurs are a little bit weak when you're in that final third and you're looking for the crosses. The likes of Vertonghen on the left-hand side especially, not great at tracking plays, not that quick, so if you can get Lukaku on him, Pogba can cross from deep. That footballing-wise is very good. I think the only issue with Pogba against Spurs is going to be tracking Christian Eriksen. Christian Eriksen's movement off the ball is fantastic. So he needs to be aware both going forward and in a defensive sense.
I also want to talk about those Raiola tweets.
I mean, do we have to? We spoke about that on the debate.
You already had your say about this.
Everyone, I think we have spoken about it this week on the debate.
Briefly sum it up for the preview.
But for me though, the Raiola tweets is simply an agent defending his client. Like it doesn't. People getting offended, like because Scholes's a United legend and saying, "Oh, he's disrespecting the club," and Pogba needs to come out and say if he wants to leave or not. Like really and truly, all he's come out and said is, "Poor Scholes, you're chatting rubbish. If it was up to you, you'd want to sell Pogba. And how easy would it be to sell him?" He's trying to criticise the man's intelligence, and he's defending his player. I don't mind that. Obviously, when it's against Scholes, a club legend, who a lot of the time he will praise Pogba as well. Like there's so many other pundits you could go after first.
Yeah,
but I feel because it was a club legend, like he probably feels that his voice carries more weight. And therefore, you kind of have to stand up and say something. But again, it's Mino Raiola. Fergie was right about him.
Maybe he just had a drink and was feeling brave on Twitter. I've been there. I see it. I've been there. Joshy, do you think Pogba will be captain against Spurs again? Do you want him to be?
Do I want him to be? Or what's the question?
Do you want him to be? Do you think he will be?
Yeah, I mean, look, that interview after the last game, I think there's something not lost in translation, but the language he was using, he said attitude. I think what he meant was intensity. The way you heard him, I don't think anyone in terms of attitude went onto the pitch and went, right, I can't be arsed. I don't think that's what it was. And I think in the way I think he meant like a collective sort of dropping a bollock there really, because the whole team was rubbish, but he also wanted to call himself out and say, actually, that as captain, my intensity, or he said attitude, but as captain, I'm also going to take responsibility. I think it was along those lines, not along the lines of, yeah, none of us really cared and I didn't care, so which is what I understand, that's kind of the language he did use, but I think there's a slight nuance there that I hope he meant something more along the lines of intensity. Against Spurs, I think it will depend. I think, is Valencia back in training?
He's been back from last week, just before that.
Yeah, so he might come back into the side, and I think Valencia will be captain. Although if he doesn't come back into the side, I've got no problem with Pogba being captain. I mean, in the World Cup, we saw a lot of maturity, and I think it was a fairly mature interview after that game in terms of fronting up. Although some of his actions or words and there's a little bit of game playing, which I think doesn't help. But I wouldn't have an issue with it. I think long term, we need to be looking at Pogba as our long-term captain, but at the same time, he needs to be stepping up as well.
The comments I read most into that day weren't the ones about attitude, were the ones where he said, like, it just wasn't right. We weren't pressing and stuff. And it's kind of like he's saying, like, the tactics just weren't right. And I know he never mentioned the name, but it's kind of like we need to be helped by the manager a little bit here.
Well, if you're mentioning tactics, that's what people are going to think about straight away. Do you reckon this has all been a little bit of a storm in a teacup here, Howson, or do you think there's a genuine possibility that Paul Pogba won't be a Manchester United player by the end of this transfer window?
Mate, it's been a possibility, and it's probably been a sliding scale possibility going up and down since March when Mourinho benched him. I think he probably this late in the window probably isn't going to leave, but I'm not going to be shocked if I wake up and see him on a flight to Barcelona. I thought there's a lot happened with Paul Pogba, and there's a lot that's happened that hasn't quite come out just yet about Paul Pogba. That I wonder what the reasons behind why this sort of stuff is coming out now, when you know that the club is very, very capable of covering up things, and they've either chosen not to cover it up or they've chosen to allow this to come out, which seems to me to be the club putting their stance up that if and when they did sell Paul Pogba, here's some of the reasons why we sold Paul Pogba. And I think that what Raiola did was also calculated. Raiola says he puts about 5 tweets a year out, doesn't he? This is a guy that keeps his mouth shut most of the time. And everything that he comes out and says isn't to be taken at face value. Remember the blah 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 stuff in the lead up to Pogba actually signing for United. There's a lot to be read into this, and I don't think the club coming out and saying we won't sell him, I don't think you can take that at face value either. I think that can be the club protecting their asset financially, and I think that there's a very, very real chance that if Barcelona came with an offer that was actually reasonable, they might turn him in and get the profit.
I reckon Gaffer's gone before Pogba's gone.
Can you imagine how screwed we'd be if Paul Pogba left this transfer?
I genuinely think he's just a kind of power player, kind of that we've seen similar with someone described it as similar to Rooney and Stretford, and I feel like it's very similar, and I think the bed's kind of been made by...
Fergie handled that better. He's a
this club though, we had Fergie doing everything, and now we've got Jose that's kind of got a little bit of power with the football team, and Ed Woodward who does everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like we haven't got that stability anymore.
Yeah, so you got someone like Ed Woodward who, in this power play, will do something stupid because he's also someone who wants to exert his power. I don't think he'll leave simply because we don't have any opportunity to replace him. But if the window was still open for us as well, I mean, we'd be having a different conversation.
I don't think
Fred was his replacement? What if Fred was his replacement and Pereira coming back off loan? Between those two players, you replace him. Now, I'm not necessarily saying those two players are capable of doing that, but this is the Glazers. Why Fellaini wasn't allowed to go, Pereira was kept around and you bought in Fred. That, on paper, is enough to replace what Paul Pogba gives you, I think, according to Glazeronomics.
Nah.
Okay, we'll be back next with team lineup predictions. See you in a sec. Right, we're back. Predicted 11 times. How is the league table looking at the minute? It's only been 2 games.
Statman Dave's still top.
Am I second? No, I'm not.
0.5 ahead of you.
I am second place, but I think I'm also joint last.
I've heard he's got 0.5 on you as well.
Funny.
I like the new system. The new system's good. The averaging out. That's good.
Well, today is where everything changes and I storm to the top of the league.
Joshy praising our...
For people that don't know, basically, we take the average score of all of your scores whenever you've been on a preview. Hopefully, by the end of it, you've been on 5+, because then your score will count to the leaderboard properly.
Do you want to get yours in first? Predicted 11?
Yes, go on then. I'll go with David De Gea in goal, obviously. Antonio Valencia at right back, got a feeling he'll return. The game being on Monday gives us a bit of extra time as well. Yeah, obviously. He's the club captain, so... Whether you think that's right. Yeah, he is.
Is he?
Jose said that in a press conference, so he's the club captain. Luke Shaw at left back. I wouldn't be surprised if he went 3 at the back this time around. But I'm going to hope that regardless of formation, I get enough points. Do you get me? So I'll go with Bailly and Lindelof again. I know that they had an awful game.
Bailey in particular.
Bailey, particularly the worst game he's had in United shirt. But the alternatives aren't very good. So I think you kind of have to give that's the first time they've ever been collectively so bad.
That's it. I feel like just because Bailey was sort of, I've never seen him that bad in a game really, or not for United anyway.
So I hope he
feel
shows some faith.
It's an anomaly, hopefully.
He has to show some faith in them. They're his centre halves.
Exactly.
And then in midfield, could Matic return? I think he may look to see Valencia, Matic coming back in. So Matic, Pogba, Fred. I think dropping Fred probably wouldn't be fair at this moment in time. And then up top, Lukaku.
Sanchez is going to play, isn't he?
He's injured though.
He's injured.
Well, Sanchez isn't going to play. Shut your face.
Unless he's back, but
he's not going to play.
I'll go.
Lingard.
Lingard's playing. I think Mata will come in. So Mata will go out for Lingard, and Marshall started last game, so I'll go Rashford.
Nice. You say Lukaku up top?
Yeah.
Great. Predict 11, Statman Dave, who are you playing and why?
I'm going to go 3-5-2. I think United will set that way up just to deal with Tottenham, because I think they'll play three at the back as well. So De Gea in goal, back three of Bay, Smalling, Lindelof, midfield three of Matic, Pogba, Lingard, Young on the right-hand side, Shaw on the left-hand side, and I think Sanchez will return with Lukaku up front. It's a bit hidden at the moment with United. Like, Matic has been back in training for a week. Sanchez has been tweeting that he's in, he's out. I think it's, I think those two guys will come back in. Not too sure about Valencia, though. I think Valencia might be the one where, Young could easily play right wing back. So I think that those two guys, Matic and Sanchez, are too important at the moment. Like, Matic is the only one that can play true defensive midfield. And against this Tottenham team, they've got a lot of interchange and positional switching. You need a strong defensive midfielder. And I think Sanchez is kind of the go-to man for Mourinho. And in a 3-5-2's look very good. So that's what I'm going to go with. Probably going to get about 9.5 of those correct. So stay at the top of the leaderboard.
You're 0.5 ahead.
I find it mad that someone who's had as many awful games as Sanchez could be considered first choice for Mourinho. But it is Mourinho, eh?
It's good to hear two teams with Matic in, though. I'm looking forward to seeing him this season for the first time.
I think he's needed in games like this.
There were defensive frailties in the last game as well. Matic, like Dave said, one of the true defensive midfielders in the team, will obviously be able to help with that. Joshy, who are you having as your 11?
De Gea in net.
Yes.
It is a difficult one. I think he will go with three at the back. I agree with Dave, and he'll bring in Smalling alongside Lindelof and Bailly. He likes Smalling. Smalling has played well against Spurs in the past. On the right, I'm sort of deliberating between Valencia and Young, but I think he'll go with Young again, and Shaw on the left. I think he will bring Matic back in. I think that is going to be the experience he brings there. That'll be important, and especially to Mourinho against a team like Tottenham. Pogba, Fred up front, though. I think Sanchez isn't fit, so I'm going to go with Lingard and Lukaku. So different to Dave's in that way.
Halson, talk to me.
I definitely agree with the three at the back. Jose does like to mirror opposition that do play at three at the back quite often, so I'll go with Dave in net. Although everyone's talking like it's the most certain thing in the world, it's actually been pretty poor for us this season. I don't think he's going to drop the goalkeeper, but I don't think it's the 100% certainty it's been in the past. I'll go with maybe it is, but I think if he is being, you never know. Especially if he's panicking.
We ain't going to see Lee Grant. We ain't going to see Lee Grant playing in there.
How far away is Romero? to get him?
Physio room hasn't even got a date.
All right, yeah. All right, so it is the case. It's not going to be Grant. It might have been Romero, but it won't be Grant. I reckon the back three will be Bay, Lindelof, and Smalling. I think it'll still be Ashley Young and Luke Shaw as wing backs. I'm going with a 3-5-2 or 3-5-1-1 if you like. A midfield three. I think it'll be Ander Herrera that comes in. He's been on the bench. I think he's probably a little bit ahead of Matic in terms of fitness and stuff like that. So I think with what you're going to get energy-wise from Spurs, Ander Herrera makes a lot of sense to sit in front of that defence a little bit. Pogba and Fred, I thought they was good. I liked how forward they was thinking playing against Leicester. I thought they was both equally as turd as each other against Brighton. Pogba frustratingly so. And up front, I would go with Sanchez just off Lukaku. Again, I think for the reasons people are saying Matic will come straight back in, I just don't. I think because of the World Cup and everything else that's going on in Matic, I reckon he's probably a week or so away just yet. But Sanchez, I think if he's fit, I think he just plays. That's pretty much how we've seen it go down. Although I'd prefer to see someone like Lingard in there and try and put a bit of pressure on that back four. But I just don't think we'll see it. I think it'll be Sanchez and Lukaku, and I think it's good enough to get a result against Spurs. I think after how poor we was against Brighton, I think we're going to shock everyone and get a decent result against them.
I was about to say you've signed, but they've not signed anyone.
They never signed anyone, and here we got Jose moaning about signings anyway. They've only signed Moura in 12 months. Really? But I think they've got a better team than us in it, so it's fair enough. Having a look at Spurs, you got to see. I just love Christian Eriksen.
He's
every single
baller.
Time. He's the guy. Like, I know Harry Kane's got a goal in August now, so he's a threat finally this month. But apart from that, I think Christian Eriksen makes him tick, and he's the one consistent performer in that team for me. I absolutely loved him. I loved him since he was at Ajax, and I remember him coming to Old Trafford once and just bossing us off the park. And the Ajax fans sang Three Little Birds. It was mint.
They always do. It's great, isn't it? I always join in when you're at a game where Ajax fans are singing it. Statman Dave, this is always where you come into your own and educate us noobs. Tell me about Tottenham and any threat that maybe we won't mention today.
Nudes.
Yeah. Like I said before, I expect them to play a 3-5-2. I think that's kind of their go-to system this season, maybe. I think they looked poor in their first game as in a 4-2-3-1. So, that 3-5-2 with Ali, Eriksen, Dyer in midfield looks quite good. It's got a lot of fluidity. Lucas Moura is an interesting one who's finally coming back. He actually played as, as an attacking midfielder, as a striker against Fulham and scored a really good goal. But it is all about the threat of their movement off the ball. Trippier is the guy that they keep on hitting these long switches to, and Eriksen's making that run inside. So that is the danger for United, is that tracking that move. Trippier is interesting because he seems to be regarded as a very good crosser of the ball. For me, it's more about volume than quality with Trippier, as he just keeps getting wide, keeps getting those opportunities to cross, and eventually hits a good one. So that's always a problem. But similar with that, if United can counter-attack when Tottenham are high and they're pressing and they've got the likes of Trippier and Davis on the other side high, United could break it, 3v1. That type of situation is what United want to do on the counter-attack. So it's going to be interesting. But again, thought Toby Alderweireld was very good against Fulham. A player that United could have got. His passing out of the back was excellent. Vertonghen may be a weak link in terms of running off him, as I mentioned before, at left centre-back. Sanchez is always a guy that United target.
I think Vertonghen's injured,
Tottenham. He's a guy that you can either get behind or you can target physically with either a Lukaku or a Marouane Fellaini. So there's a lot of threats there, but again, Kane looked good against Fulham, which is a worry for United. Scored his goal in August, as Adam mentioned. So he's going to be the threat. The United need to be tight with him. And I'll playing a back three in a line, Chris Smalling to, in a way, man mark him and stick to him and have a battle with him. Chris Smalling's always better when he has a direct opponent. I think dealing with someone like a Harry Kane could be good for United and, of course, the rest of the United team.
Harry Kane and Chris Smalling and one-on-one. That tells you all you need to know. Howson, where are the main sort of battles going to be on the pitch in this one?
I agree on that. I think Chris Smalling actually against Harry Kane, despite what we've seen at Wembley previously, isn't the worst matchup in the world. I disagree with what Dave said about Harry Kane against Fulham, because I watched that game and besides his goal, which he did take very, very well, I thought he was really ordinary, if not a bit crap. So
may as well be Celtic, innit?
I've got to disagree with him big time on that.
Watching. What game was it, Steve? Another one.
But Trippier, absolutely. I think he is a threat. He's a threat from set pieces, as we saw last week. Unbelievable. But he's involved heavily in the build-up play. But so's Davis. They use both of their fullbacks well, and it's a sign of what United could probably have if we had fullbacks of that level. I think Trippier just comes in and would level up United if we was able to get.
How annoying is it
on
that Trippier is from the north and we allowed him to go down? Like before, United would hoover up any.
I don't want to play like that.
No, but any player in the north, United will hoover them up. Usually anywhere else as well.
I think his family are United.
From Bury, innit? He's from Bury.
I think so.
Yeah, like a young Gary Neville, and we missed out on him.
Ex-City.
Ex-City?
Who cares if he's ex-City?
Is he ex-City? I know he's
I
ex-City.
literally just said that, no?
Oh, sorry, Dave. I didn't hear you. I wasn't listening, to be honest.
We thought it was one of your
Cheers.
fake news
Thanks,
stats
guys.
again,
You just
Dave.
get recognised all around Manchester, as we don't you, mate? Keep up, bud.
Can we just never mention Trippier and free kicks in the same sentence again? Because I get horrible flashbacks. It's honestly, it's like
What?
Nam. Can we just not do it? The World Cup.
Yeah, it was a good World Cup though.
I know, but right, Doc Joshy, what can you tell me about Spurs, mate?
I could tell you Jan Vertonghen was at my son's birthday party last week.
No way, really?
With his daughter, yeah.
Is your son friends with Jan Vertonghen's daughter?
No, we were just at the same place. And we noticed his watch. I actually noticed his watch first, sick Daytona. And then I realised it was Jan Vertonghen. He was there with his family, so I didn't bother him or shout abuse at him because I'm also a respectable member of community.
Josh, I love the way Josh.
Till he has a drink.
Joshy noticed his watch
Till he has a
first.
drink.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Look, I think Dave said something about Lukaku being able to bully Vertonghen, but actually I've got to say Lukaku needs to do more of that. I don't think he is, for someone his size, I don't think he bullies people enough, and I think against centre-backs who should be bullied physically, as it were, he doesn't do it enough, and I think we need to see more of that. So, that'll be one area. But we've talked a lot about Eriksen, Kane. They have got a lot of quality, and they've played together. They've been playing together, and they have a core team that have played together for a long time. So they know what they're doing. They know how they play, and they're going to come out and set up exactly how they always do. And they're a quality side. There's a lot of threat there.
The one thing that frustrates me with Romelu Lukaku is when you watch the game against Brighton, like it might be the supply to him is bad as well, but every time we got the ball into him, like I saw Gray and Deeney the week before, who used to be non-league strikers, absolutely batter them too in defence. And then we had Romelu Lukaku, who's tearing up the World Cup, £75 million, and he's struggling. It was really bad to watch, and it's just like simple things, man. I just hate football.
I always feel like I'm being...
He was playing like he was wearing bricks on his feet. It was awful, mate. I mean, I'm not saying as a general. I'm not going to generalize and say he's got a bad touch. He's got this. He's got that. But against Brighton, it wasn't sticking. He wasn't. He was being bullied by the whichever centre back he was putting himself next to. He wasn't running the channels. I mean, you could say this about a lot of the players on the pitch. Martial wasn't getting in behind. He wasn't stretching the defence. We've got. There has to be a step up. There has to be a reaction.
When Lukaku's not on form, he plays like he's wearing jeans. Before we wrap up this preview today, let's get some score predictions in. Adam, go.
Manchester United 1, Spurs 0. It's only Tottenham, remember?
Howson, go.
Lads, it's Tottenham 2-0 United.
Tony Marshall scores again.
Joshy.
Again.
I mean, I know this is a United fan channel. I shouldn't really be predicting a loss. So I'm going to predict a 3-0 win United.
That's 1, 2, 3. That means Statman Dave's going to be 4-0 FC.
Statman Dave.
4-0 FC. Ah.
No, I genuinely think we're going to get a draw.
I'm going to say 1-0 as well.
Wouldn't be surprised if we lost.
Guys, get in the comments below with your predictions. What team you think we're going to play? How do you think we're going to do? Right, make sure you go and follow and subscribe to all the guys on the video today. Howson, you know where to find him. Josh, you know where to find him. Statman Dave, you know where to find him. And this prick, there's no point going to find him, to be honest. Thanks for joining us on another preview. Get in the comments below. Tell me your score predictions, what the lineup you think is going to be. And make sure you keep it here on Full Time Devils as well. Loads of great stuff coming up this week. And we are all sort of looking forward to the Spurs game. He's back on fan cams, so that's something to be excited about. Not really, I preferred Nat.